welcome to the Journey to the CEO Success podcast. I'm your co-host, Melissa Saunders, along with the Patrick Thean, entrepreneur, CEO coach, and a USA Today and Wall Street Journal best-selling author. His latest book, The Journey to CEO Success, is another #1 Amazon best-selling. Congrats, Patrick, and hello. How are you?
Well, thank you, Melissa. It's a great day to be here. Wonderful day for a podcast.
Awesome. And you will notice we have a guest with us today. I'm so excited to welcome Paul Pirkle. He's the president and COO of Midwest Groundcovers. Paul holds an MBA from Liberty University and a Bachelor of Arts in English Literature and minor in management from Hanover College. He has a proven track record of visionary leadership, strategy development, and team collaboration. As president and COO, Paul works with the Midwest Groundcovers team to focus energy on the goals that will bring success to the company. And Paul, I love your personal mission statement: build bridges, unlock opportunities, and add value to all relationships. Wow.
Yes.
We are so excited to have you on our podcast today. Thanks for joining.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Melissa. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, Paul, welcome to our show. We are here. Our audience are all CEOs,
Yes.
and we are here to help leaders have a joyful and successful journey. My personal mission actually is to help all CEOs not fail, but to succeed, and then to go on and achieve their dreams. So I've been lucky that I discovered that, I guess, before I started this company about 18, 19 years ago. And that's what I've been doing for the last 20 years, frankly. So I'd love for you to share a bit about yourself. Take a few minutes, 5 minutes or so, and share with us about your journey. Like, how did life bring you to this point in life today?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny when you rise up to a president level or a CEO, and I've thought a lot about this as far as, and I've become more reflective, that I think the older I get, as far as all of the dotted lines that take you to where you're going to be, and some things that you thought, okay, how is this going to lead to where I'm going to be eventually, and what is that going to look like? And it's been an interesting journey, because I would say that, I worked in several different industries. I've worked in a lot of different environments, and what I've found along the way is that I've had to promote myself along the way of my journey, and my pathway has not been completely straight. It's gone to a lot of different manufacturing industries. It's gone a lot. I've gone from printing. I was in recycling. I was in the bearing business. I was in the equipment business, and now I find myself in the horticulture industry. And one of the things that I've had to do is just be much more of a chameleon. I've had to adapt and adjust. I've had to get to know people quickly, but at the same time, it's not unlike what I've been doing all my life. I mean, I went from one elementary school to another, and had to make new friends at in the fourth grade. I then went to middle school, went to high school. I transferred a few times. I played baseball in
Mhm.
college, so I transferred a few times in college, and had to do the same thing. So if I take a look at the patterns I've had in my life, it's been really leading me up to the fact that I've had to make friends. I've had to adjust quickly. I've had to find where I can add value quickly, and that's kind of led me to where I am today. I've had some really great mentors. I've had some people that I have felt like that they've breathed life into me, and
Yeah.
they've taken the time to share some guiding points with me, and it all goes back to there was a guy that I played baseball with at Texas Wesleyan University, and one day I was struggling, in my I was slumping in my batting,
Sure.
and he I asked him. I said, "Hey, Edwin, can you help me out a little bit? Can you watch me hit?" And he said, "For you, yes." And I said, "Why for me?" And he said, "Because you're not just trying to get a hit tomorrow. You're trying to make sure that you're getting hits consistently, game after game. And I'd rather help you out than just help somebody who's trying to get a hit the next day." And that was really important for me, for
Oh,
a 22-year
wow.
old guy to be able to do that. And it really made an impression, and it
Mhm.
made me think, how many other people are out there that want to breathe life into you, but they not waste their breath on you if you don't want to really listen to them.
So,
Yeah.
Paul, why did he say that to you? Let's unpack that a little bit. Why did he say that you're not just getting a hit, but you're trying to get, all these hits? What did you do that made him
Mhm.
see that in you?
It's I don't know. And that's the honest answer. I guess if I had to really think about it and go back in time, I think he saw that I was there every day. I worked hard, and that I truly wasn't just trying to get at the next hit. Like, it wasn't. He saw something in me that was a little bit deeper, and I also feel like that's where, when people see that in you, and they see that you want to just go forward with not just a one game success, but you really
Yeah.
want to make a career of this, then they do take the time to feed into you. And I believe that Edwin saw that in me. And I would say that several people throughout my career have taken the time to sit down with me and talk to me, because I think they knew that I would be there for the long game. I wasn't just trying to get an immediate success factor, that I knew that it was going to be a career, and it wasn't going to be just short term. And it's really made a lot of difference
Yeah.
in my entire life.
So I bet that I can even see in this podcast. I mean, you're an authentic guy,
Mhm.
and I'm sure that there was something that attracted him to you in a way that he wanted to help you. And it made me think about, as you shared your story, you said you had to promote yourself, but you also had to adapt and adjust quickly. And then you talked about
Yeah.
mentors. You know, my question would be, I always wonder, like, do you choose your mentors in your case, or do your mentors choose you? And
Mm.
how do we get that? How do we get mentors working with us,
Mhm.
helping us grow?
Yeah. And I think in some ways, the my greatest mentor was a guy by the name of Jim Bowers. And I don't know that he ever knew that he was as big a mentor as he was. But at the same time, he took a chance on me at one point. I was a very, I guess, confident 31-year-old, and I wrote him a letter and said, "Jim, I'm going to be the next president of your company." And he sat on that. That was in a letter. So I mailed the letter. I didn't know, what had come of it. But he called me one day, probably 2 months after he received the letter, and he said, "Paul, I'm going to tell you two things. One is, you're not going to be the next president of my company." He said, "But second of all, I do want to meet with you and talk to you about why you want to be the next president of my company."
Huh.
So we ended up sitting down for a couple hours, and it was the most impactful 2 hours of my life, and it really led me on a journey that led me to seek out information at different companies, set out to find out where I could go with my career, what I needed to fill the gaps in. He said, if I really want to be able to understand where I want to go, I need to think about an MBA. I pursued the MBA. I got the MBA back in uh, 2013. So it's another one of those things, just like with the batting, is that he took the time with me, and I
Yes.
could have taken the information that he gave me at that time, and I could have just disregarded it.
Mhm.
Instead, I really took it to heart. I shared it with other people, and that led me on about a 15-year journey of trying to find out what I wanted to do. And that was really important. Again, I wasn't just trying to get the next application in to say I want to
Mhm.
be a president at now 32. I didn't really become a president or CEO until I was in my mid 40s. And to go in that long game and learn and take the time to learn and do it right. Because you said earlier, being a CEO is not easy. If I
Yes.
would have become a president or a CEO at 31, and he would have taken me up on that, I would have failed, because I didn't know what I didn't know, and
Mhm.
that was an important lesson that I had in my life.
Well, you've given me a really nice cue into what I really want to talk about today with you is about inflection points, and I've seen that life is filled with these key decisions. We
Mhm.
make them or we do something and we're given an opportunity of what I call an inflection point. Now, in Steve Jobs' famous, graduation address at Stanford University, he talked about how when you look backwards, you can see
Yeah.
stuff, but you can't see it looking forward. And he talked about how, he learned about calligraphy and how that affected him when he designed the Macintosh, and
Yes.
how thanks to that class he took, we all have fonts versus just ugly typeset stuff.
Right.
So that's an inflection point for him. My question is, this sounds like an inflection point for you. What caused you to write that letter? And I'd love to hear more about what you think, maybe how this inflection point happened and other ones that caused you to make these decisions. I'd love to see if our audience can learn a few things on that from you.
Yeah, I mean, I think what made me write the letter initially was I was a very confident
I would say.
guy and said, hey, I'm gonna do this, and this is gonna be where I need to be. Uh, but at the same time, it was more about the fact that at the same time as I was very confident, I also had you know, uh, parents who sat down with me and talked to me a lot over time. I had, great family support, um, great brother, all of that who really fed into me over time, and they made me really take a look and say, listen to other people and what it is that they are saying to you, and I believe that through that, it really helped me to be able to take that one point and not take it and say, you know what, Jim doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm going to go out and be a president somewhere else. It was more like, what is Jim saying to me that I can take and really internalize? And if I choose this path, I know it's going to be a long path. I know there's going to be a lot of work involved in it. But at the same time, I'm going to be better at the end of the day because I did that. And that that one time led me to so many different conversations that I've had through my entire career where I've sat down with people and listened to them, and it's been really insightful, and I've been able to sit back and say, okay, what did I hear? What is this? What are they trying to say to me that can further my career and what I want to do? And that's been really important. And I believe that when you have those special inflection points, as you mentioned, that change your life, then you do want to share that. And I've shared this story about Jim with a lot of people because I feel like that people just want to get things quickly. They want the quick path to success, and it's not that way. If you really want it to be long and enduring, then it needs to have that time. You need to learn the hard knocks. You need to learn through the good times and the bad. And I have been able to do that. I'm evidence of it.
And you are a special guy because this gentleman Jim, he chose to invest in you.
He did.
He chose to. He gave you 2 hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
And he didn't fire him.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
Yeah.
tell us more about your journey. As in your company today. Tell us a little bit about your company today, what you guys do, and what's your journey like in this firm right now.
Yeah, so it's been great. We're a horticulture. We grow plants. So we have 700 acres that we have nurseries on. We grow container shrubs and ground covers, roses. We do native plants. And when you take a look at all of the perennials, whenever we sell to independent garden centers, landscape contractors, rewholesalers. And so we've got a team of individuals at 5 different nurseries that work together to put that all together for that clientele. And we continue to grow year over year, and we've had some really great success over time. I was brought in 18 months ago to be the president of the company. The chairman of our company was looking. She was as president. We had our previous president had retired. She took over for him. It was a longer tenure than she had expected due to COVID and everything else that was going along. But when we started to have conversations about me coming into this role, it was a long process. It was one that we were intentional about. And when you talk about some of the things that you've learned over time, I felt like sometimes when I came into companies that I was brought in and I was almost like popping out of a cake. I was a surprise to everybody on the other
Yeah.
side. What I talked to our chairman about, her name's Krista Worm Keller, is I said, Krista, I don't want to go in and pop out of a cake. I want people to know who I
Mm.
am, what I believe in. I want to make sure I'm the right person that you want to hire. And I don't want you just to hire me. I want you to make sure that I'm the right person. Go out and find other people that you want to interview. And if I'm at the end of the day the right person for your company, then I'd be honored to come in and lead
Yes.
Midwest Groundcovers. And
Yeah.
so we went through about a 9-month process. I talked to quite a few people. I talked to some consultants, and we went through that. And it's been a great journey. The team of individuals is really strong, and it's not something where I came in and I had to turn anything around. I didn't have to, fire a lot of people. It was an opportunity for me to come in and build relationships and to understand what it is that has brought us success, and then understand what I could do to be able to influence a future success and build a company for the future. And so that's what I'm in the process of doing, working with the team, working with Rhythm. Thank you very much. And we've been introducing that over a year ago, and that's been a great success for us. And we're bringing our entire team into that.
Thank you. I want to double click on something you just shared, which is really critical as a good learning point for our audience. You didn't want to pop out of the cake, and I'll share with you that I've helped so many companies transition leaders. I found this role, the CEO, president, this role to be the hardest role to fill,
Hmm.
and frankly, with the least amount of success.
Yeah.
Least amount of success. So what you did there, I'm going to slow down a little bit here for our audience sake. Uh, it appears to me that you didn't just want to get a job. You wanted to make sure that you were the right fit. You took you 9 months of a journey with them to make sure that's the right fit. And I think that you've gotten wiser in your older age, right? Because
Yes.
when you were younger, it's like, hey, I'm gonna be your president, right? Now
That's right.
now you're like, well, let's make sure that I'm the right guy. Like make
Right.
and I always share with folks that um, that's like a marriage. It has to work for both
Mhm.
parties. So sometimes I think when a CEO or president is trying too hard to get that job, and then they get the job, and then they go, "Oh my God, I'm not the best."
I want it.
And it is not just a expensive
Mhm.
change out. It is a horrible. It's a joyless,
Yeah.
Yes.
joyless change out for the
Right.
company, for the person who hired the president, and for that person, him or herself. So I think that was. I just want to pause on that for a little bit and see if you had any other insights there, because I think that is so insightful that were thinking that, hey, I want to make sure I don't just pop out of the cake and
Right.
make sure that we have the right person for the role, etc.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It is
tell
really
us more about that.
important.
Yeah.
It really is important.
I think it comes though, Paul, it sounds like from a place of confidence. You did go back to school, you got your MBA. I'm sure by moving around from place to place, like you had to definitely build that inner confidence up that
Mhm.
you needed, to be able to go from school to school. And it seems like you brought that along with you on your journey as COO now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. But and I think what you learn along the way too is that there's going to be a lot of people who like what you're doing, and there are a lot of
Mhm.
people who don't like what you're doing, and you've got to make sure that you understand who you are. I think that inner confidence that comes in, it's also about how to take people that are resisting you, and taking people who are maybe not very fond of the fact that you've come into a
Mhm.
company, and trying to make the best of that, and getting to try to build that relationship with others. And that's an important thing too, that I believe, Patrick, as you mentioned, that I've learned along the way, is just continue to build those relationships, and trying to make sure that you are, as I in my case, living by my mission. And that
Mhm.
mission that I have about building bridges, unlocking opportunities, and adding value to all relationships, is really important to me. And it wasn't just something that I flippantly created. It was something that over time that I developed because it proved out to be a successful mission for me that allowed me to center myself on a mission that I could live by. And that if I got off of true north, then I could go back to that and say,
Mm,
am I living by that? And I think that goes into your relationships of good, both good and bad,
mm,
is making sure that are you adding value to these relationships, and are you building the bridges, and are you unlocking opportunities for not only yourself but for others?
mm.
Yeah. That's so many nuggets you've given us today, Paul.
Mhm.
Having your own personal mission,
Mm,
knowing how to center yourself, and for you, knowing that the relationships and building bridges is critical. That guided, I think, that continues to guide a lot of your actions. And so, again, for our audience out there, there's so many nuggets here about how to really not just have a successful journey, but have a very enjoyable journey. So I'm curious, in you, like you said, you went through ups and downs, joyful times and stressful times. And if you recount through your journey through that, can you share about maybe a crisis or so that you were surprised by, and how you got through it, and how did you get through it in hopefully, as joyful a way as possible, right? But I'm just curious how you were able to get through some of that.
Yeah, I had talked to several CEOs in the past, and they said, "Where was your $1 million mistake?" Because a lot
mm.
of us have had them, and until you've had that $1 million mistake, then have you really lived? And I'm like, well, I wish I wouldn't have lived that richly, because that's a tough one. but uh, but yeah, I had a pretty big issue with a company where I had patented a process. I brought together all these team members of different vendors, and we had all of them were speaking a very similar language. They all felt confident, and I was able to verify everything was going well. There was one particular vendor that his confidence in the way that his system was going to work was bothering me. But I chose not to listen to my gut at that
Mm,
time, and just went together with the confidence that everybody else had in it. And I went back several times and said, "Are you sure that this is the way that this is going to work?" And he just said, "Oh yeah, this is the way it's going to be." And I didn't really listen to it. And that was one of the areas that ended up causing a major malfunction that caused that crisis to happen. We
mm,
ended up having just a monumental failure with an installation that we had done, and it was horrible. And it all came back to a decision that I made 18 months prior. And so when you take a look at those things, I think the biggest thing that I learned from it was that you got to listen to your gut. Sometimes, your gut's telling you
mm,
things that you need to be able to
Yeah.
to change, check out what the person's saying. Make sure that you're listening and verifying what it is. And you can trust somebody, but you got to verify what it is, and
mm,
then check with some other people and say, this is what this person's telling me. It doesn't feel right. Can you give me some help here? And that's what I ended up doing after the fact. And then we ended up re-engineering that one particular part of the
mm,
system. We ended up then having success on it, and ended up running fantastically with the new system. But if I would have listened to my gut, 18
mm,
months earlier, then I could have avoided some of those mistakes. So I would say that that's the one thing that I have taken away from that, is that I've got to listen to my gut. And when something doesn't feel or smell right, that I've got to listen to that, and I've got to pursue, not to overtake
mm,
or take over that process, but just check with some other people and say, what, this is what I'm hearing. Is that exactly the way it should be? And that's made a lot of difference, just even in the last, you know, 8 years since that situation happened.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. And
Mhm.
I always say, your gut is the best supercomputer out there.
Yeah,
That's
it
great.
is.
You kind of know things through experience that you can't quite express, and so
Right.
your gut is the best early warning system out there. And one of the things that I address in my new book, The CEO Journey for Success, is one of the chapters I talk about having an early warning system,
Mm-hmm.
and how important it is to maybe look for some leading indicators and things like that. And I love how you shared about how, look, your gut told you, but you didn't listen, right? And you didn't listen at first. Was it because of you were too busy, or was it because usually I find that when I don't listen to my gut, it's because it's inconvenient.
Sure.
It's kind of like, I want to do this, and my
Yeah.
gut goes, no, you don't. I'm like, well, crap, if I don't, it's gonna take
You're
more time, and
right.
I just want to move on, right? It'll be fine. It'll be fine, right? So I'm curious,
Right.
did you have that experience, or was it something else that caused you not to listen to your gut first time around?
Yeah, it was probably that whole area of trust, but verify, and I just didn't verify.
Mm,
It was one of those that if I would have listened and then trust and then verified the situation, I would have been a lot better off. And you said it there with regard to experience, is that a lot of times when you think about where we are in our careers, you build on all these experiences and you have all of these situations that do happen to you. And even though I've gone into different industries, there are certain archetypes that I can point to, that I can say, yeah, I've seen something like that before. I've been in that similar situation before, and this is how I'm going to overcome it, or this is how I'm going to react. You did mention, and you asked the question, is how did I respond to that situation? And and at that point, one of the things that I would say that I responded is I just got to work, and I started to dig in and take care of
Mm-hmm.
the situation. When you go through a crisis like that, there's no time to, put your hands on your face and pout. Um, you just got to get to work, and that's
mm,
what I did. And it was a very quick. Brought the team together, mentioned the fact that, hey, this is what happened, this is what occurred, this is what we're going to do. Set out the plan very fast, and thoughtful, and got the team together, and we responded in kind. And I think that's where leadership comes in. You're going to go through crisis. You're going
yes.
to go through challenges. If you think that you're not going to go through something, then you're really in the wrong profession, because as a president, CEO,
Yeah.
you're going to go through crisis, because that's the stuff that comes up to you. That's what's happening, and you're going to have to respond. And you can't yell and scream and holler, and you just have to say, okay, we're going to get through this. We're going to go through the crisis, and we're going to be able to attend to it.
Hmm.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you.
was
So,
unbelievable.
I always ask every guest this one question. It's my final question. Uh, like I said, my mission for this podcast is to help CEOs and executives have a joyful and successful journey.
Mhm.
So my question is, what advice can you leave our audience for them to have the best journey they can for a joyful and successful life?
Yeah. No, it's a great and thoughtful question, and one that when I take a look at that, I'm a marathon runner. I've got a marathon coming up in another 4 weeks, and it'll be my seventh. And the one thing that I had, when I ran my first marathon, I had asked myself, why am I doing this? Not just because of why am I running a marathon, but really, why have I decided to go on this journey?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I had stopped doing about 10 years before I chose to run that marathon is I stopped using the phrase life is a marathon, not a sprint, because I'd never run a marathon before. And I felt like I was being disingenuous, to say that I could actually say life is a marathon, not a sprint, when I hadn't actually spent time out running the marathon. So when I ran the marathon, I I had in all my training what it was that I was trying to accomplish, and why was life a marathon and not a sprint. And one of the things that I came to was the fact that there's a lot of training, that you have to go through. You go through, many early mornings, many late nights, many miles on the road by yourself. You're going through a lot of pain. You've got to get your nutrition correct, and then when you get on the course, everybody's excited at the beginning, but then about the 15th, 16th mile, you start hearing all the groanings, next to you. And when I take that to business, you hear the groanings when things start to get hard, and you have to just keep running. And when you get to the 20th mile, it becomes a mental game, and it's hard at that point. It's you're depleted of energy. You've had to make sure you fed yourself along the way, and then you get through that last 6.2 miles, and it's truly, I have a better appreciation for life's a marathon and not a sprint because I run marathons, and it's something that I long for. And why really running this next one for the same reason, because I get something out of it every single time that's different when I get to that 20th mile that I didn't expect. And I started, when during my runs, I started thinking about, hey, do I have a personal quote? Do I have something that I put my name to that I want to live by? I've got my personal mission. And what I came to is that, Paul, you just need to keep getting better at getting better rather than getting better at staying the same.
Hmm.
Mm.
And that's really where I would say that if I had to hand one thing down to other CEOs, presidents, is just keep getting better at getting better and
Hmm.
not get better at staying the same. And you learn that, through the 20th mile, that you just got to put step after step, and you've got to make sure that you're ready for that. And you will reach the finish line if you put, one foot in front of the other and run the mile that you're in, because it's important. And don't listen to all the voices on the side who are groaning and saying that they're going to quit or they're going to drop out. Just keep going, and that finish line will come. You'll have the medal around your neck, and you'll feel very successful.
Thank you.
Wow.
That's
Oh man, you are a Superman.
yeah.
That was unbelievable. The fact that you run marathons is unbelievable, but then
Mm.
that you have that thought process to just keep going, and that 20th mile is sort of that,
Yes.
make
Yeah.
or break moment. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. It's around lunchtime whenever we do these, and so I always want to know, like, what's your snack? What's your brain food during the day?
So I am a very much of a disciplined eater.
I figured you
So
would.
so I tend to have very similar energy. So my go-to today is a pretty much a ham sandwich with a pear. And
Wow.
so I tend to do that.
Yeah. Very, very practical. What about once you finish that race? What's the first meal you eat?
It's you don't feel like eating very much at the end of
Yeah,
a marathon.
yeah,
I usually my mouth is so chock full of Gatorade and
yeah,
other sweet that the electrolytes that I've had, that I don't really feel like eating very much. But if
yeah,
I'm finishing the race and I haven't finished a few of them that in a very good shape, some of them you don't feel so good afterwards.
yeah.
But the last ones, I just want to kind of walk around, and then once a couple hours goes by and you feel pretty good, then you can eat a good sandwich or whatever you want because
Yeah,
you've already
yeah.
burned so many
Burned it.
calories.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. But
Well, I
no,
want
it's
to.
a good question.
Yeah, no, yeah, and just thank you, Paul, for being on our podcast. I know we're over time, but I know our audience must have been captivated by a few things you said. Any last words, Patrick, before we go?
No, thank you, Paul. It's been fantastic talking with you today. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah,
Good
it's
luck
really
on
nice
that.
to talk with you.
Good luck on that marathon. But until next time, go out there and enjoy that journey. Talk
Thank
to
you.
you later. Bye, guys.